left to love me. But their broken dreams have got to Good evening and welcome back to Fire Football Radio. I'm your host, Matt McGrath, alongside Mr. Luigi Capola. This is the third episode of the Fire Football Radio show for the 2024-2025 season. We will be live on YouTube Live every Wednesday night starting at 7 p.m. to bring you the latest news, rumors, and more about America's game and the league we all know and love, the NFL. September 18th, 2024. In between weeks 2 and weeks 3 of the NFL season. Luigi and I just touched on it. I didn't want to touch on it again, but now that I'm talking about it, it's crazy that we're already into past week 2 of the season into week 3, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about all the football that's behind us and all the much more football that's ahead of us. Mr. Luigi Capola, what's going on, baby?
Matt, it's crazy, We're 1/9 of the season down already. It seems far too fast already. And it's been a lot of developments this week, a lot of weird games this past weekend, and plenty to talk about as usual.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, I guess we'll go right into it. Hopefully, I don't believe Eric will be joining us tonight. Zach will probably be joining us later on for at least for the picks. So we'll talk to them later. But we have a plethora of injuries, unfortunately, to get through. This is the saddest part of our show, obviously, but it is one of the most important parts because it does affect pretty much every team every week. But the major ones, obviously, Dolphins quarterback Tua Tagovailoa suffered another intense concussion on Thursday night last week against Buffalo. He has now been placed on IR. There's been questions over whether he's going to retire. He did just get an absolutely massive contract, which in the contract, if he does get a medical note saying that he cannot play football anymore, he would collect $124 million guaranteed immediately. Obviously, that's probably not what is in Tua Tagovailoa's mind because he wants to continue playing football. He's a good quarterback, but eventually it comes up for all of us. And regardless, the Dolphins are going to be faced with some issues going forward. They have Skylar Thompson as their backup, who played a playoff game against Buffalo 2 years ago. And then they signed Tyler Huntley this week. So they have to move forward, and it's just unfortunate that it happened so early in week 2, Luigi.
Yeah, I mean, a terrible, terrible thing to watch on TV. Tua's just at this point known for his head trauma, unfortunately, and the concussion was not very sightly. And yeah, obviously it affects Tua. Hopefully he makes the right decision for him and his family. Seems as though he will continue to play football, so hopefully he could do so in a healthy manner, safe manner. But in terms of the Dolphins, they're in a real, real bad spot. I mean, at the end of the game, they put in Skylar Thompson to replace Tua. They were already having a terrible game. The Bills were absolutely dominating the whole game. But it really definitely did not get better when Thompson came in the game. So they got a bit of an uphill battle to be missing Tua for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully they could pick off some wins, but it's going to be difficult without their star quarterback.
Yeah, Tua wasn't playing great, obviously, before he got hurt on the QB scramble trying to get the first down. But regardless, he's played pretty well. Uh, all of last season, obviously, he was able to stay upright and not get hurt after the concussions he faced 2 years ago. And he put on all that weight 2 years ago. Or no, sorry, after 2 years ago for last year to kind of brace the blow of the hits that he was taking and try to learn how to fall. This wasn't even a sack. It wasn't a fall backwards. It wasn't even honestly that big of a hit. Damar Hamlin, ironically, on the other side of it, didn't really do anything to snap his neck back. He just was standing there ready to tackle him, and Tua kind of just dove right into him. So it's scary because it shows that it doesn't take that much for Tua to have this type of injury happen again and this head
Yeah,
trauma.
yeah, no, it's terrifying. I mean, it's all avoidable if he could learn how to get down. He was well past the first down marker, but I mean, I'm not going to fault him for trying to make a football play and try to help his team out, and obviously not going to fault him for his unfortunate injury. I hope he recovers safely. But I mean, going forward, he needs to know he needs to get on his butt immediately or get on his shoulder, whatever it may be. But you got to protect yourself, especially as a quarterback in the NFL, but really as any player.
Absolutely. Totally agree. Our next injury, Eagles wide receiver A.J. Brown to miss a couple of weeks with a hamstring injury. The Eagles clearly missed him this past week, along with many fantasy owners. I'm sure they can't wait to get him back. I mean, he's a volume receptions. I mean, he just forces defenses to pay attention to him, especially with the safety over the top of him, which then frees up stuff for Devontae Smith. Uh, the earlier they can get him back, I think the better.
Yeah, they do need him back. It adds a whole nother dimension, obviously, to have a receiver of Brown's caliber on the field, and Hurts really looks to him in some of those situations where he's a little stuck up. So it's definitely important to get him back, but hamstring injuries could linger, and this is a team looking to go far into the postseason this year. So it might be important for them to let him sit on this injury for a bit and come back when he's fully healthy and the risk of re-injury is minimal.
Yes, we will see when he comes back. Rams injury list, a laundry list. Wide receiver Cooper Kupp to miss a few weeks. Puka Nacua, we talked about last week, was already placed on the IR. Safety John Johnson expected to be out 4 to 6 weeks, also placed on the IR. Guard Steve Avila underwent knee surgery on Thursday and was placed on the IR. And then finally, tackled Joe Noteboom placed on the IR after an ankle injury. Luigi, this is something that we already texted about, and obviously it's only week 2 going into week 3, but with this many injuries, are the Rams already toast?
Yeah, because this list is honestly just the high profile
Yeah,
names.
right.
There's a
There's
good
a
five or
bigger
six
list.
other players, contributors too, not just bench players that
Hmm.
are on the IR as well for this Rams team already. Yeah, they're in a really bad spot, especially after starting 0-2. It'd be a whole different story if they started 2-0 and then experienced these injuries, or maybe even 1-1. But starting 0-2 in an NFC that's shown to be pretty strong, especially that NFC South is going to definitely going to be vying for some of those spots in the wild card. This is really important. The Rams look not ideal in their game this weekend and against the Cardinals when they lost 41-10. And obviously, the Cardinals look very good. The 49ers are a formidable team, and the Seahawks started the season 2-0. So it's a huge uphill battle. Stafford has nobody to throw to of a high caliber or high profile. Obviously, now Demarcus Robinson and Tyler Johnson are here to step up into those roles for Stafford, but this is tough. I mean, his O line's beat up. It's going to be tough to get a run game going. It's going to be tough to be protected long enough to make these throws. So obviously, luckily, they do have Sean McVay, who's very good at scheming things up, and hopefully, he'll find a way to catch a couple of wins when before getting some of these high-profile guys back.
Yeah, I mean they had a lot of injuries going into that game against the Cardinals, ended up losing 41-10 and not only left with a 31-point loss, but also double the amount of injuries they came in with.
Yeah.
So this is this is not good this early in the season, and a lot of these injuries are not just, day to day, week to week. This is multiple weeks. IRs at minimum 4 weeks. John Johnson 4 to 6 weeks. It could be the latter extent of that. So yeah, as you said, it's a tough division too, and these are especially in the division. You already lost a divisional game to the Cardinals, who technically are supposed to be the worst team in the division, I guess. Not good.
No, not good at all.
So we'll see how they can handle it, if they can at all. 49ers running back Christian McCaffrey placed on IR late last week. 49ers wide receiver Deebo Samuel also was injured in the loss on Sunday to the Vikings. Luigi, this is a domino effect. It seems like it's not obviously as bad as the Rams, but it's not good either.
No, definitely not as bad as the Rams. Luckily, we are going to get some talent back. Talanoa Hufanga, our all-pro safety, will be returning this week against the Rams, which is great news. But we've lost our top two offensive weapons, and that's very evident here. We're going to need some guys to step up big time. Obviously, Juwan Jennings has started off the season pretty great, come up on some really important catches. Jordan Mason stepped in for McCaffrey and almost filled in perfectly. A lot of the receiving upside is kind of diminished with Mason, but I mean, running the ball, he's done fantastic behind that offensive line. Um, this is huge for Purdy, especially he's got to make do with what he has now. Luckily, we do still have George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk as in terms of pass catchers, and like I mentioned, Mason stepping up big. So Ayuk's really going to have to earn his money these next couple of weeks with these guys out, and he hasn't done so this early in the season. He scored 13 fantasy points to start the year off. He has under 100 receiving yards in 2 games, which is not ideal and not the start we wanted, but what we expect when you miss a whole entire offseason. So unfortunately, the missing of the offseason for the holdout added with these tough injuries is really going to be uh, tough for the 49ers to overcome. I read a report earlier today that Debo Samuel is likely going to be multiple weeks out because the 49ers want him to come back fully healthy. Um, and McCaffrey, they're really just taking it slow and they don't want to force him back either. So we need some guys to step up because we still need to win. The next 4 games, we play all 3 of the teams in the division. So we need to walk out of this at least 2-2 minimum over the next 4 games. Hopefully, 2 of those losses aren't to our in division opponents.
Yeah, yeah, Ayuk's got to step up. He's got to show what you guys paid him is what he deserves.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, to for him to not is just incredible after demanding the amount of money that he demanded all offseason. So he's been a non-factor the first 2 weeks. We really need him to step up and show that he is worth top 5 receiver money.
Absolutely. Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco to miss 6 to 8 weeks after fibula fracture. The Chiefs signed Kareem Hunt actually to their practice squad. They have Samaje Perine and also Carson Steele. So obviously, I think the Chiefs will still be okay, but Isaiah Pacheco is just a top 10 running back that it's hard to replace in this league, especially for 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, that's half your season.
Absolutely. And I mean, in terms of his timetable to return, it's set at 6 to 8 weeks, but it's looking like it'll be the upper end at the very least. I mean, he fractured his fibula. I mean, it's one of the biggest bones in your body. Maybe I'm not a biology person, but it might actually be the largest bone in your body. So, you know, Pacheco being out, like you mentioned, he is a top 10 running back on this Chiefs offense. He is a big motor behind their offense. And hopefully they're able to make do with what they got. They have started the season off 2-0 with two good wins the past couple weeks. So, I mean, they still have the team that they have, but losing one of your big pieces is never good.
No, absolutely not. I'm going to run through some of these last couple injuries so we can get into the meat of the recapping of the games that we had this past weekend and the future games that we have this upcoming weekend. Broncos tackle Mike McGlinchey suffered an MCL sprain and will miss multiple weeks. Former 49er Luigi, now on Zach's team with the Broncos. Not ideal for a rookie quarterback, plain and simple. So they're going to hope to get him back sooner rather than later. Jets linebacker Jermaine Johnson tore his Achilles in the win over the Titans. Also not ideal. We talked about this prior to week 1, when the Hassan Reddick deal talks would really probably kick into gear is when they lost their first pass rusher.
Yep.
And this is it.
This is it right here. They definitely need someone to come in and play for Jermaine Johnson. I mean, the game against the Titans, it looked like they gassed out their team like completely. Everybody seemed to have left everything they had on the field, and that's not a good way to win a week 2 game, especially against the 0-2 Titans. It's going to be paramount for the Jets to get Hassan Reddick on a deal, especially with Jermaine Johnson gone, like you mentioned, for the season.
They're gonna have to figure it out. Unfortunate for Jermaine Johnson. Hopefully he can get back and healthy next season. He's still very young. Colts D tackle DeForest Buckner placed on IR, out for at least 4 weeks with an ankle injury. Not good for the Colts in an already terrible run defense. DeForest Buckner is obviously like the Lamborghini underneath the terrible shed right now, but they just lost him, and that's not
Yeah.
good.
Absolutely. I mean, they do have a lot of young guys on that defensive front that are trying to mold into the NFL, but they absolutely got pieced up on Sunday against the Packers. The Packers ran for what was like over 250 yards on the ground. So coming off of losing your best run defender, like you mentioned, is really not good for the Colts, and it's going to be important to get him back healthy very soon.
Final injury on our list, Patriots linebacker Juwan Bentley out for the year with a torn pectoral muscle. Not good either. He's been playing pretty solid. And Luigi, with all these injuries, I'm kind of sick of having to read through them. But do you think this has anything to do? I've seen it on a couple, pages and people talking about it. Does this have anything to do with the shortened preseason and nobody playing in the preseason?
Less to do with the shortened preseason and more to do with nobody playing in the preseason. You're not getting these important reps, especially these veterans. And yes, I know like they shouldn't have to put in a ton of time in the preseason games, but it's important to get your body into the correct form to be playing these games. And one drive isn't really going to suffice, especially if it's a three and out drive by either the offense or the defense. It's not going to help you whatsoever to get prepared for your season ahead. It's definitely a factor. Obviously, these are all veteran names, guys who've been on their teams for over a year, even over 2 years, really. So it's tough for the Pats. That's a big loss. He had over 100 tackles last year. Was kind of he's the captain of this defense, but they played very well against the Seahawks. Obviously, they were missing Kenny Walker and do have a banged up offensive line, but it's very tough to see these injuries one after another, especially at the severity that they are.
Yes, it's not ideal. So we'll see how these teams recover. A lot of injuries on this list. Hopefully it gets smaller as the weeks go on, but we'll see. Go to the chat real quick. Scott from D11 is in the chat. Hello, Scott. He says
No,
news flash. Scott from D11 has been cut from the New York Football Giants special teams for kicking. He did tell me earlier that he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to listen to the show because he had a tryout for the Giants to be the kicker this week. So
somebody needs to be the kicker this week for the
yeah, and
Giants.
Scott's going to take it into his own hands, of course. B16 Buffalo League of Zest. Good evening, gentlemen. My favorite anti-Bills and pro Andy Dalton radio show. I mean, pro Andy Dalton and pro Bills. Griffin, we're going to get into the Bills right now.
I pick your quarterback to win MVP, and I pick them to beat the Dolphins. How are we anti Buffalo in this chat? I'm going to be anti Buffalo week 13 when we're in the house, but not right now.
He's looking for some adversity and some bulletin board material
Of
from
course,
us.
of
He's not going to
course,
get it.
not getting it, Griff. Not
Not
getting it.
getting it. All right, let's recap last week, week two of the NFL season in 2024. Bills absolutely owned the Dolphins in Thursday Night Football, routed them 31-10. James Cook with a huge three touchdown night. Bills defense always also with three interceptions before Tua Tagovailoa got hurt. So we touched on this a little bit when we talked about Tua's game, but yeah, the Bills are rolling. The offense looks good. Defense showed up. They just looked like they wanted to play and win more than the Dolphins did on Thursday night.
Absolutely, they really did. Those first couple of drives for the Bills offense and defense, they were really just winning the offense and defensive lines, absolutely dominating up front. And usually that's a key, obviously a huge key to success, but that's also a very important marker of who wants it more. Because obviously you have a lot of skilled guys on both sides of the offensive and defensive lines. So, the Bills came out, they wanted it more. They playing in prime time. Josh Allen improves to what, 12-1, 12-2, or 13-1, 13-2 against the Dolphins in his years. So, they really owned him, and, you know, just a really good game for the Bills. Obviously, the win from the Cardinals this weekend shows you how much of an impressive win that was against them week one. And so now they're rolling into week three with two really good wins and a hot team, and their quarterback's as hot as it gets. And James Cook, he had two touchdowns all of last season and put up three on Thursday night. So he's definitely having his coming out party this year for sure.
Yeah, he's definitely a potential star in the making, which is quite exciting for the Bills. And we touched on this when me, you, and Griffin were texting on Thursday night, but we said without Stephon Diggs, this offense honestly looks better because they don't have to worry about force feeding their star diva wide receiver.
Yeah, and I mean Griff fully agreed with us. I read a report today from Bleacher Report, funny enough, that came out saying, "Is the Bills offense better without Stephon Diggs?" And you've seen it the last two games; they've scored upwards of 30 points in both games, in both wins. So, it's impressive. They don't have to force feed them like you mentioned, and they're able to get the ball out to all their guys. Khalil Shakir's had a good start to the season. Keon Coleman's played really well as a rookie. Their offensive line is playing fantastic, and Sean McDermott has these Bills fired up and ready to go this year.
Yeah, and Griffin, to the anti-Bills rhetoric for our show, said that we didn't pick them to win the AFC East, which
You're right.
is true. We didn't. And this could have the same effect that the us picking the Chargers 2 years ago did when the Chiefs still won it again. Maybe this should be the Bills division to win until they actually lose it.
Yeah, we should probably have thought about it that way, truthfully. But at the same time, a lot of the teams in the division did a lot more in the offseason to prove that they should be better teams. And the reason their predictions griff is because we don't know what's going to happen. Josh Allen's playing like a superstar, and this defense, even though it doesn't have many names on it, is playing really good.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's trending upwards compared to the other teams in the division. As you mentioned, the Jets kind of look like they went all out in a week 2 game against the Titans, who aren't really that great. So if it takes them that much energy to beat the Titans, maybe they're not that great. Obviously, we know that not yet. Maybe they're still molding and gelling together. The Dolphins now don't have a starting quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa. The Patriots are the Patriots. We think their defense can be pretty solid and competent, but they can't throw the ball. So it is really now it look like this early. It looks like the Bills are the best team in the division by far.
Oh yeah,
We'll see when they play each other.
yeah, we'll find out soon enough.
Ryan Loizel's in the chat. He says, "Are the New Orleans Saints for real?" Which is our next game on topic here. Saints whooped the Cowboys 44-19. Derek Carr starts the season leading the Saints to 15 straight scoring drives to start the season. And Alvin Kamara had 4 touchdowns in their win on Sunday. I had him in 2 fantasy leagues. He put up 44 points, and I lost in both of them.
Yeah, just poor fantasy management there, Matt. I
Yeah.
played against him in 2 fantasy leagues and lost, so there's even more fantasy mismanagement there. Um, yeah, no, the Saints looked legit. I mean, the Cowboys last year kind of did this week too. They got blown out last year
Is it
against the
Cardinals?
Packers.
Oh, maybe they played. Well, they played I know they lost to the Cardinals bad, but whatever. I'll look it up. You can continue.
Regardless, they got blown out in week 2, back-to-back seasons. Both of them were the home opener to start their season. So maybe that's just how the Cowboys roll. I don't really have any idea, but the Saints look legit. I mean, obviously, we talked last week about Clint Kubiak coming into the Saints offense to run the Saints offense, coming over from San Francisco, a Shanahan disciple. Um, I do think that their offense is definitely legit. The Cowboys didn't really wow me this weekend offensively, so I think the jury might still be out on the defense. However, whatever they're doing is really successful and it's showing really well. They have a tough test against Philadelphia this coming week. And I guess that's really, if they do it a third time in a row, then you really can't say anything. And then the Saints team will be in really prime position to do some real damage this season. But I think the jury's still out. I think that they are one of the better offenses and one of the better teams in the NFL. But are they legit? Like I said, jury's still kind of out on that one.
Yeah, still up for debate. We definitely need to see more games. The first game they played was against the Panthers, where they put up 47 points, obviously, but we know how the Panthers are already. We can already kind of make a distinction on them. The Cowboys, we don't exactly know yet, but the Cowboys are notorious to losing or beating up on bad teams and losing the good ones. So, I mean, the Saints at least are above average. Um,
Yes, at
we
the
haven't seen
very
them
least.
at the very least are above average. We haven't seen them play true competition, but I mean then again every year we come into the season thinking that the Cowboys are going to be Super Bowl contenders. But the Cowboys know how to lose these types of games. Yeah, last year they went 2-0 to start the season and then they lost to the Cardinals on the road and then in week 5 they got blown out by the 49ers 42-10. So we'll see if they can continue. The defense didn't really do anything at all. Obviously, they gave up a ton of points and a ton of yards, which is supposed to be the specialty of this team, essentially. Micah Parsons was kind of nowhere to be found. But for the Saints team, this is kind of the Saints team that I thought was going to happen last season where I picked them to win the division and thought that they would be better than they actually were. But I guess it was the offensive coordinator issue. As you said, Clint Kubiak comes in, brings in this 49ers Shanahan style offense where, run first, these little dump offs where I saw it was the Green Light Pod with Chris Long, where he was painting a picture on that long 57-yard hand or dump off the screen that they had to Kamara that he scored on. They literally just moved everybody to the left side of the field, painted it going that way, and the Kamara had an absolute, I mean, Kamara's speed too, but Kamara had an absolute wide open path to the end zone. So it's if you it's hard to score 15 times in a row, regardless of who you're playing.
Yeah, the previous record was 7 drives in a row, and the
That's crazy. They
Saints
doubled it.
obviously smashed that. Um, and to go from Pete Carmichael, who was their OC for upwards of a decade, he was actually one of the longest tenured offensive coordinators and coordinators in general, sitting in New Orleans. Leaves, and you get in a new mind who's going to freshen up this offense. On top of that, they all played their preseason games with the exception of Alvin Kamara. Derek Carr had plenty of drives during the preseason this year, and they kind of were able to find that pace. And it's showing, like we mentioned earlier with the injuries. Like, I think some of these teams that were able to get their starters out for the preseason really have an advantage against some of these teams that are just sitting around on their hands waiting for week one. And I think it's what we're going to see. We see it this year, and I think we'll see it for the next couple of years. That some of these teams really need to invest in playing in the preseason to be able to be successful these first couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan, maybe I'd hold your thought on, are they for real? I know that's a big topic of discussion this week, but they've been good so far. I mean, plain and simple. So we'll see if they can continue that magic. They have another NFC matchup with the Eagles, as Luigi said this week. So we'll see. I saw what Griffin said. I don't know if I'm gonna talk about it. I don't want to talk about the Giants just yet. I'm not ready for that.
Well, we have
Uh,
time to do that later.
Raiders charge back to beat the Ravens 26-23. Las Vegas scored 13 straight in the fourth quarter, including the game-winning field goal drive. Luigi, something we have not mentioned yet, but we didn't have a good picking week last week. I don't think many people do. I was in a pick and pool of 20 guys, and there was an 8-man tie. We do like 2 points for the best record of the week. Usually it's like one, maybe two, maybe three guys that are at the top of the field. 8 guys tied for the top record this week, and the top amount of wins was 8.
Yeah, it's been tough to
So who is
project.
good? Are the Ravens bad? Like
It
they just lost to the
it's
Raiders.
it's tough to project right now, because you know what? You can't say that good teams aren't winning when you see the Chiefs and the Bills start the season 2-0, and the Texans as well. Some three of the teams we had coming in the top 10 teams in the league, versus now you have the Buccaneers and you have the Saints and you have some other teams that are 2-0 that nobody really expected them to be sitting at 2-0. The Seahawks are another team to add. Um, I don't know who's good right now. I really don't. I think that there's some safe bets, like I mentioned, with the Bills and the Chiefs and the Texans, but I don't know who's bad. Might be the better way to say it, because I can only tell you a couple of teams in the NFL that I think can be beaten every single week. But outside of that, it's really a toss up, and it goes back to the preseason once again. I really do believe that maybe the combination of having less games and these guys not really stepping into play is really going to affect them. And it really started to affect them at the beginning of the year. I know last year we kind of started off like this very similarly, where some of the teams we thought were going to be good came out with slow starts. The Chiefs, to name one of them. Um, I don't know. I don't know who's good. I don't think the Ravens are bad, but who am I to say? They've lost 2 games. Obviously, they lost to the Chiefs and then the Raiders, and there is a big record of some of these better teams like the Chiefs, Niners, and Eagles. The teams that they play usually go on to lose the next week because they're banged up so bad in such a tough game. So maybe it's a little bit of that. I mean, to crumble in the fourth quarter after being up by 10 points is not ideal at all, and it's not really the sign of a good team. But they still have Lamar. They still have some of those names across their offense and defense that are synonymous with good football play. So, man, I don't know what to tell you. I don't think I have an answer to your question.
Yeah, I don't really think I do either. Week one, they played a good game. I mean, they played a solid game on the road in Arrowhead against the Chiefs. A lot of it obviously was on the back of Lamar, 122 rushing yards. That's just not going to happen every week. But to lose to the Raiders, who lost 22-10 to the Chargers the week before, and like the Chargers are 2-0 now, so like, are the Chargers good? I, I don't I don't know, but the thing that I do know is that the Ravens are notorious for doing this. I mean, we went to a game against the Giants 2 seasons ago where they lost. They were up 10 in the fourth quarter and with 6 minutes to go and lost. And there's like a laundry list of games that they've had the same sort of thing happen where they've been up either at halftime by 20 points, 10 points in the fourth quarter, 13 points in the fourth quarter with 7 minutes to go, and they just fold. And I don't understand why this happens. And you would think that a well-coached team with John Harbaugh, this wouldn't happen, but it's happened so many times, and he's been the coach the whole time.
Yeah, I there's not enough film to attribute it to anything particularly right now, but you're
It's
absolutely
just
right.
the Ravens,
You're absolutely right.
I guess. Like I guess that's what it's come to is that this is just the team that it happens to because there's like a ridiculous number of samples that this has happened. So I'm not mad that I took the Ravens because I wouldn't have expected the Chargers to come back. But on the flip side, we haven't talked about the Chargers really. I mean, Devontae Adams came alive in the fourth quarter with toe touch grabs and diving plays, and Gardner Minshew was good, much better than last week.
Yeah, he started off the game very poorly too, and there's a good clip going around the internet right now. Max Crosby really hyping him up after he threw an interception on Sunday and telling him, "Hey man, you belong here. You're supposed to be here. You're our quarterback. We're following you. We got your back." And they really did. The defense stepped up big, and it's just a good win for the Raiders. Really a quality win that I mean nobody could discount at all.
No. When you were talking about the 2-0 teams in the league, Ryan Loisel said Steelers 2-0. Come on, Luigi.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, Ryan. Relax. I was just naming a couple of the ones off the top of my head. You guys won 2 games by the skin of your teeth. Sure, you could be 2-0. That's fine.
They're in the conversation of the 2-0 teams at least. Yeah, so we'll see. Who do the Ravens have this week? Do they have an easier game? Are they playing someone better?
How do we know, Matt? They were supposed to be playing the Raiders.
Yeah. Yeah, they
And
were
they're
playing the
playing the
Raiders.
Cowboys
And they're
on
playing the Cowboys on the
prime
road.
time. Not prime time, but prime game of the week, whatever you want to call it.
And do the Cowboys lose? So now the question becomes, do the Cowboys lose back-to-back home games?
We'll find out when we do our picks, I guess, but
Yeah.
I don't know right now. I mean, I still need to sit on it for the next 30, 40 minutes until we make those
Yeah,
picks.
exactly. All right. Kyler Murray had a perfect passer rating with the win in Los Angeles, 41-10 on Sunday with the Cardinals. He is one of two players ever to have a perfect passer rating in the Super Bowl era, him and also another former Cardinals quarterback in Kurt Warner. Murray went 17 of 21, 266 yards and 3 touchdowns, added 59 yards on the ground. Marvin Harrison coming out party, 4 grabs, 130 yards, and also 2 touchdowns for him. This was a great win by the Cardinals. I mean, a Rams beat up team or not, they don't do this, and they've lost to the Rams, I think, the last however many. I mean, they don't win at home regardless, but I
Yeah.
forget. I think Kyler Murray was like winless against the Rams at home.
Yeah, I mean this is a testament to what's happened culturally with the Cardinals. I know there were a lot of jokes at the beginning of last season about Jonathan Gannon and him being a bit of an NPC, as some people were calling out. But they got Kyler Murray back. He had a full off season of healthy play to link up with some of these guys. He's got some young stars. Obviously, you mentioned Marvin Harrison around him. Trey McBride had a great game as well, the tight end. Gannon knows what he's doing. They're a run heavy team. They scheme that way and they could break big plays out of what looks like run formations because they have good weapons. And it's really just been a testament to what the coaching has done in Arizona. And they're trying to flip the script of, let's get away from the Cliff Kingsbury era where we were always losing at home and let's, defend our house. Their defense stepped up huge too. I mean, obviously 41 points and only allowing 10 to even a Rams team just in general who still has weapons even without some of their key guys who've been injured. Um, this is no small feat at all, and it's a great way to kick off their year. And hopefully they can ride this throughout the rest of the season. Murray obviously having a fantastic game. Is just a testament to how good of a quarterback he is and how good of a selection Arizona made all those years ago. And now it's really prospering for them. And he's not on one of those ginormous contracts either. So it's good for the team right now.
Yes, it is. The Cardinals had not beaten the Rams at home in Arizona since 2014 when they were the St. Louis Rams.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it had been a long time coming.
Whoa. Holy cow. That's
Yeah,
10 years. That's
even
insane.
longer than I thought. So, and after week one, you mentioned Marvin Harrison doing pretty well for them, having a great game. After week one, Marvin Harrison, it seemed like, in the week one game, he was open at points, and Kyler Murray was asked about how he can basically what he can do, and he said it's not really my job to force feed to wide receivers. And I mean, everybody across the Twitterverse was like, "Well, I mean, it actually is your job. Like, you're the quarterback. You have to do that. You have to figure out ways to do that." And he shut up all the haters this week and played extremely well. So kudos to him.
Absolutely. Stood on business.
Call of Duty does come out in October, though.
Yeah, so the downfall is near.
The 8-0, or the what is it, like the 6-2 rise to then the Cliff Kingsbury fall along with Kyler Murray. So yeah, we're in the rise period right now. We're
Yes.
rising with Kyler Murray.
COD hasn't come out yet.
No, we're not there yet. Chiefs kick a game-winning 51-yard field goal with time expiring to beat the Bengals 26-25. Burrow bounces back with 258 yards and two touchdowns, but also fumbled two times. Maybe that water bottle problem. Mahomes throws two picks, but the defense steps up big with a fumble recovery in the end zone. This was a great game. I thoroughly enjoyed watching this, especially since at 4 o'clock the Cardinals game was a blowout, and then the Steelers
Who
Broncos game
wants
is
to
a
watch the
snoozer.
Steelers Broncos? Yes, snooze fest. Um, yeah, no, I didn't watch this game too much. I was doing a couple of other things during the 4 o'clock window, but I did go back and watch a lot of it. And you know, as much as I'd like to talk about the Chiefs, the Bengals really stepped up big time to play and came back good. I mean, Jamar Chase didn't really have a great game whatsoever, but they were still able to be very serviceable offensively. Um, you know, they fed the ball to Zach Moss quite a bit, and he had a good game. Mike Gesicki had a bunch of catches as well, coming up in that tight end spot. He's just came in this offseason to the Bengals. Um, it's important for them to stay competitive even after starting off the season 0-2. But obviously, this is a tough loss. They're going into the last 30 seconds of the game up 2 points, and Patrick Mahomes does Patrick Mahomes things, gets them down the field to get into the range of their kicker, who shall not be named.
He he Patrick Mahomes has the most interceptions turned over because of penalties since
2018.
2020, 2018 when he started playing. I think it's 16. Brady only had 16 in his entire career, which is pretty crazy. But Mahomes figures out a way to win. And I mean,
That's
people
the
who
story of his career.
like, as much as it sucks to see them win on the pass interference penalty at the end of the game that ended up putting them in field goal position on a 4th and 16 play, people saying that that wasn't a penalty are non-ball knowers. That was a clear pass interference. Yes, maybe he was playing the ball, but I mean, the receiver was straight up. He just ran right into him. You can't do that.
No, you absolutely cannot. You're up, and it's not even non-ball knowers. It's just people hate the Chiefs because of the success they've had the past few seasons and almost the past decade at this point now. Um, so that controversy is not a real controversy. It was the right call by the referees. It got confirmed by New York to be the right call. I just don't see why people are complaining. The Bengals didn't do enough to win the game at the end of the day, and the Chiefs did. That's how it comes down to it. You can't give Patrick Mahomes the ball back with any time on the clock. So that was really the detriment there for the Bengals.
Indeed. But as you said, they came into after having a terrible week one and the concerns over Burrow's injury and all that. Yes, he did fumble twice, but he had a pretty solid game overall. I mean, he put up a fight against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean, both of his fumbles were strip sacks. So
Yeah.
one of them he got back too. So
He can't hold on to the ball tight enough. So we'll see how the Bengals do moving forward. We know how the Chiefs are. The Bengals somehow kick it back into gear this week. Jamar Chase will eventually come out, we think, and play better. He's one of the guys who was holding out. So I think the best thing for him is that he's healthy and that he's not injured yet, like all the other guys. So for Bengals fans, you can be happy with that. Unfortunate you moved to 0-2 on the season. So Kirk
Again.
Cousins again for the second time in a row. Kirk Cousins huge fourth quarter drive to beat the Eagles on Monday Night Football 22-21. Went 6 of 7 for 50 yards and a touchdown with a minute and 39 seconds left and no timeouts after Saquon Barkley's dropped third down pass in the red zone to force the Eagles to take the field goal. Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson with both over 100 scrimmage yards each. She had 0 touchdowns. The Falcons definitely played better than they played in week one. Uh, the Eagles played okay at times. I know some Eagles fans are very upset with how the game ended, obviously. Uh, do you run the ball in that scenario? Obviously, I've seen so many. Okay, that wasn't the right question to start with because I've seen so many different people talking about it. Obviously, they ran the play. The play was executed perfectly. He drops the pass before going into that play, do you like we don't think that we don't know that that play happened? Would you run the ball or not?
No, no, I think they made the perfect play call. Now, obviously, they could have ran the ball, gotten 2 yards, done their little tush push, and finished the game off. They are the Eagles; they could do that. But the way that the Falcons were playing at the end of that game defensively, their front was dominating the Eagles. The Eagles, 70% of the game, were winning the battle up front, and then at least offensively. Defensively, they definitely were not. But offensively, they were winning the battle up front for the majority of that game, and the tides flipped. And it was not a smart call to have run the ball. They made the perfect play call. You like you said, it was executed perfectly. I mean, it's just an unfortunate drop. Sometimes when players leave teams, they bring some of their traits with them, unfortunately. But sorry for that stray, but I just had to.
That was a
Um,
stray.
yeah, it was a stray, but I had to. Um, it was the right play call. It was the right decision by Nick Sirianni at the end of the day. What I don't like about the whole Eagles loss is that Nick Sirianni did not address the team at the end of the game. Jalen Hurts had to
No.
step in the locker room to talk to the team and say this is and was quoted saying this is a team run by the players. We need to do better and we need to hold ourselves more accountable, which shows you even more how this relationship between Hertz and Sirianni either doesn't exist or is very, very poor. Very childish of Sirianni not to address his team at the end of the game. I the Eagles will be okay. Obviously, missing AJ Brown is big, especially with that Falcons secondary that had a big buff this offseason. Um, I don't know what to say about the Eagles. You got to win that game, especially on prime time. But to the Falcons, because we haven't spoken about them yet, they ran the ball fantastic. Bijan through the first half of the game was averaging like 8 yards a carry. They were just absolutely displacing the Eagles' offensive line to start the game. And then in the fourth quarter, you see exactly why you go out, get a veteran quarterback of Kirk Cousins' caliber, because it wins you football games that you would not win. If they're in that position last year with Desmond Ritter or Taylor Heineke, nothing is happening. And they're losing that football game. That's why you go out, you give them all the money you gave them. And it's paid off for the Falcons. Kirk also bounced back and played a much better game than he did week one. The Falcons in this NFC South that starting off with two 2-0 teams and a team out 1-1 with the Falcons looks pretty dangerous. So you're going to need Kirk Cousins for the long haul.
Yeah, the Falcons showed a lot of flashes in this game about how cool and exciting their offense can be, which is definitely a breath of fresh air for Falcons fans. Actually being able to get the ball to Kyle Pitts, Bijan Robinson's an absolute beast, and then Drake London having obviously a better game with the game-winning touchdown at the end than he did in week one. I think our what we said last week, our rhetoric on this show was that it's going to take time for the Falcons and to have prime time standalone Monday night game on the road, Philly's home opener. I mean, this is a good win for them. Tremendous.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So for the Eagles, it's not great. And obviously, we mentioned the AJ Brown uh, injury before, and it was definitely noticeable that he wasn't there and that
100%.
they kind of have to force it in different directions. And Saquon's going to be great, but I feel like that offense is only going to be amazing when they have all their pieces uh, coinciding together.
Yeah, clearly they're not doing a good enough job of scheming it up without having all of their pieces. And I mean, it's hard to do so because you plan your whole offseason on having all of your pieces healthy and on the field at all times. But I mean, Saquon has an injury history himself. Jalen Hurts has an injury history himself. You can't rely on each of your stars to be there every single week, especially knowing what you know about their histories. And I want to see the Eagles bounce back this week, but at the same time, they're playing a Saints team that's red hot. So if you could stifle this red hot Saints team, you're really going to have a good turning point for the start of your season. But for the Falcons, that was as close to a must-win game you're going to get early in the year with what happened with the Buccaneers winning and the Saints winning earlier in the day, and they really showed up and got it done.
Is this division no longer the worst division in football, or do we not know yet?
The AFC South looks pretty atrocious right now. So
Right. Other than the Texans.
yeah, other than the Texans who are 2-0, the rest of their teams are now 0-2, with the Jags, the Colts, and the Titans. Ah, we need to see them play more teams. The Buccaneers, obviously, with a good win against the Lions this weekend,
Yep.
and the Saints with a dominant win against the Cowboys, two teams that were in the playoffs last year. Um, yeah, I think it's safe to say they might not be the worst. I don't know if I could fully commit to it yet, just because the Panthers do bring you down pretty significantly.
Like
Um,
DePaul in the Big East, bringing
They
down your
like DePaul in
metrics.
the Big East, yes, very similar. I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I mean, the only other division that I can think of is the AFC South
Yeah,
because
and
three of their teams are 0 and 2.
The AFC West maybe too. I don't know.
And I know that
Chargers with two wins over the Raiders and the Panthers. The
right.
Raiders with an eked out win and a loss week one, and the Broncos obviously in a terrible position. I don't know. I don't know yet.
Still more games we have to
So many
see.
games. So many games. I hope every division's competitive. But
But a
yeah,
team that you mentioned there, the Carolina Panthers, who we have not touched on yet, with some breaking news yesterday, deciding to bench their second-year quarterback, Bryce Young, who they drafted with the first overall pick last season, for the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton.
yeah, I work with some TCU grads, and they said he hasn't been the Red Rifle since 2012. Um,
Okay.
yeah, no, I don't like this decision at all. I really don't. Could they be better? Let me preface this. I don't like this decision at all as someone who is rooting for Bryce Young. This is the worst thing to possibly do to a young quarterback. They should have just not started him at the beginning of the season if they knew all of this was coming. Obviously, you don't expect to get blown out in two straight games as an NFL team, but this is not good for the morale of your team. He's got the captain's patch on his jersey too, so it is really not great for you. And then if you're Bryce Young, obviously you're not very happy. They haven't done much to help you out, but I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do. They might get blown out even worse. They might play 10 times better. I need to see it before I can understand it better. But in terms of my outlook on it, I don't like it if you're Dave Canales because clearly it's just not working out.
Now, has Bryce Young been playing well? No. But
No,
is the team around him horrific? Yes.
very, very horrific.
So
Very, very, very
he has
horrific.
nothing to work with. So yeah, in terms of wanting to see Bryce Young succeed, he has nothing to work with. And like on a different team, would his start to his NFL career be better? I mean, it can't be any worse.
Yeah,
Like it's he's 2-15 in his starts.
2 and
So
16,
two
unfortunately.
and 16 now after last week's game, right? Is Andy Dalton maybe going to spoil some teams' playoff hopes in the NFC South? Does he have a better chance at that? I don't know. This team is
I
not good.
No, they're just simply not a good football team, and Bryce Young pays the price for it.
Bryce Young pays the price, and we had this conversation in the show before week one. Which head coach gets fired first? was the Rob Shippers question posed. I don't think Dave Canales is really helping his case. Like he's already pitting himself saying that this quarterback that you drafted last year is not good, but they're not going to win many more games with Andy Dalton, if
I don't
any.
expect them to. Yeah.
So,
I Yeah, I don't. In terms of him getting fired, I think that they'd be stupid to fire him before the season ends. But at the same time, you get blown out 4, 6, 8 straight games. There's no reason you should be coaching.
yeah, and whether we think that it's also warranted, it doesn't really matter in David Tepper's eyes.
Yeah, and,
He's
and
going to
that's the other
fire
thing
them.
is normally when you get these guys that get fired in the first 4, 6, 8 weeks of the season, it's because something's looming too. The locker room's not good. They're not dealing with their players well. They're not dealing with their fellow coaches well. Usually, that's the reason. On top of lack of success for these guys to get fired, and really nothing other than this Bryce Young situation has come out of Panthers camp this early in the season. So there's not a lot surrounding Canales right now. But soon people will be definitely pointing fingers.
100%. Ryan Loizell says Giants send a second rounder to the Panthers for Bryce Young. Who says no?
I mean, you just want him to keep ruining his career. I don't know what to tell you. Like,
Well, the thing is that I don't think Bryce Young. I mean, obviously he's young and he's flashy, I guess, but like we haven't even seen what he can actually be because he's not on a great team. I mean, maybe we have some better pieces, but like we're the second worst to them too. So it's not good.
no, unfortunately not. I don't know. I mean, if you're a team that could somehow snag Bryce Young for a discount, he was still a number one pick for a reason. I mean, at some point, like a lot of these guys do bust early from their high hopes that they come into the draft with, but not usually a number one overall pick is going to work out for you in some capacity. So I really think that Bryce Young either needs to get out of Carolina or Carolina needs to figure out how to put together a team so that Bryce Young could succeed. I mean, it's not like they're in cap situation where they can't go out and sign a bunch of the top guys, but no one wants to play for them because of their situation with their coaching and their ownership.
Right. Like the veteran players that they have are Adam Thielen, Miles Sanders, Deontay Johnson. Like you don't have like young, extreme talent.
No,
They didn't even have a first round pick this past year. So like they couldn't even build on Bryce Young because they traded for him and they were hoping that Bryce Young was the Messiah. Ryan Loisel says Dable, the QB fixer, don't need to talk about Daniel Jones. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, maybe Daniel Jones is lost and we can fix Bryce Young, I guess, but I don't know. I don't think they would do that at this point. I mean, maybe in the off season once they're done with Daniel Jones, if there's no better options in the draft. I don't know. We're not there yet. We're 2 games in. We have to kind of see how it unfolds for everybody. Um, but yeah, no, this is not good. And somebody asked Baker Mayfield about it because like the funny enough, the Panthers had Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold on the same team, and now we're seeing this resurgence of quarterbacks in their like seventh and eighth, ninth and 10th year, just becoming these pretty solid NFL starters. So,
mm-hmm.
and he said the problem is that like a lot of guys bust early, and he said that he wasn't in the exact situation that Bryce Young is. Like the Browns didn't give on up on him that early, but all it takes is a poor season or a poor half of a season or an injury where they you have to win. But regardless of Andy Dalton playing or Bryce Young right now, I don't think Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton's going to be running for his life too, and he's not even as fast as Bryce Young.
No, it's not going to work out. It's not. They have the worst team in the NFL, just front to back. It's not going to work out.
I agree. Eli Rosen said gunslinger. The red rifle is a gunslinger, so we'll see how he pans out in Carolina.
He won't.
What do we want to talk about? I really don't want to talk. I mean, the Giants, I mean, we lose our kicker on the first play of the game.
I don't want
Is
to talk about it, but here we go.
see, I'm not going to talk about it for as long as I did last week. We lose our kicker on the first play of the game with Graham Gano. We can't. kick any field goals. We lose to a team that scored 7 field goals. We're the first team ever to score 3 touchdowns and give up no touchdowns and lose a game. Daniel Jones was better this week, but I mean, it's against the Washington Commanders defense. If Daniel Jones played 17 games a year against the Commanders, he'd be an MVP candidate. Like he'd be in the Hall of Fame. But like it doesn't exist.
He
So
wouldn't, but yes.
Malik Neighbors played really well.
Malik Neighbors might be in the Hall of Fame, but
He was quite exciting.
he was very exciting. It was good to see something pan out for you guys.
The defense sucks. We gave up 425 yards to the Commanders. Like supposed to be, I guess, one of the bright spots of the season. I
Looking
don't
like
know.
not,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
right. Looking like not.
Yeah, your pass rush. I mean, Thibodeau and Burns are non-factors.
We had 5 sacks, and none of them came from the 3 of them.
Yep.
Linebackers, safeties on blitzes.
Yeah, it was
W-
all blitz sacks. I
We're
mean,
the worst third down defense of all time until we end up in the red zone.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, like bend don't break to the maximum at this point. You guys are
No,
like at absolute tensile capacity at this point.
but like it didn't translate to a win. So it's like maybe the offense got the ball a little bit more. Like we were moving the ball pretty well, and we scored 3 touchdowns, which was random, and the Giants never do that. So maybe we get the ball a couple more times and we win the game without a kicker. But I like it's just frustrating and unlucky that that happened. And regardless of a win against the Commanders or not, we're still not a good football team. So that's kind of what the season has become.
You're not as bad as the Panthers, though. I don't
Uh,
think.
no, I don't think so either. But we're not
It's not a
good.
really good bar.
You're right. It's the lowest bar that you can possibly be.
Yeah.
So I don't want to be compared to that.
No, you should not want to be. I don't really have much positive to say other than Malik Neighbors, so I'm gonna just leave you at that.
Daniel Jones played like an average NFL game. He played okay, like he played good enough to keep them in out of trouble. Um,
And ultimately, this game came down to your defense. I mean,
yeah, yeah. Giving up 7 field goals, bend don't break, yes, but you got to be able to get the break at some point and
yeah,
break their offensive stride. Jay Daniels looked pretty solid. They ran the ball. They ran for 215 yards, which is also supposed to be one of Shane Bowen's strengths is the run defense. That was non-existent on Sunday. The Vikings also ran all over us the week before. So yeah, we're a bad football team. Brian Dable is like the worst challenge head coach of all time. He lost one on Sunday that wasn't even close.
it
I don't know
wasn't
who's
close at all. I
I
don't know
don't
who
know
told him to throw that
right,
flag.
like I don't know who's looking at these replays for him, but they should be fired. Um they ran a good play on 4th down at the end of the game, and Malik Neighbors dropped it, unfortunately, and he blamed it on him. But I mean, he's not the reason we lost.
He's the reason you guys were still in the game.
Right. If we had an extra point, we win the game. If our defense doesn't give up 7 field goals, we win the game. So it's just frustrating. It's just like deja vu of a Giants fan. So that's all I have to say this week.
Yeah, Jaden Daniels looks good though.
Yeah, he looks exciting, and he ran the ball a lot less this week. He tried to stay in the pocket and throw the ball downfield, and he seems like an okay quarterback.
Yeah,
And we'll see. I'm excited to see him moving forward, and I think Washington fans should be excited as well.
they should be very excited. I think they got a really good quarterback. 0 interceptions through his first 2 weeks. None of the other rookie quarterbacks that have played can say that as well. So, um, yeah, impressive. I guess we can move to my Niners.
Go ahead.
Obviously, we talked about the injuries. McCaffrey, Debo hurt already, unfortunately. Kittle had a great game. Mason had a great game. Purdy didn't have his best game, but a lot of it was just honestly driven by their defense. He was pressured a lot. The Niners gave up 6 sacks. You're not going to win a football game when you get sacked 6 times, and let alone the 2 turnovers. Um, Special teams, we gave up a block punt early in the game. You can't do that. Like it's just the little things, honestly, were the reason we lost this game. We played better on offense. We played better on defense than the Vikings did, but we lost because we did stupid little things to lose ourselves a football game. Um, I'm not overreacting. I'm not massively concerned because we have some sort of weird kryptonite to the Vikings for whatever reason. And I can't even tell you. Purdy's only lost to one NFC team in his entire career when he plays a full game. It's the Vikings. And I don't know why. I don't know how. But it is what it is at this point. We need to bounce back and we need to murder the Rams. Honestly, we can't just win the game. We need to absolutely bring it to them because we have some tough outings the next couple of weeks. Um, I haven't lost faith. I never will, unfortunately. I mean, but I'm not happy. I don't think any 49ers fan is happy. I don't think the 49ers are happy at all. Um, Defense needs to be better. Luckily, like I mentioned earlier in the show, we're getting Hufanga back this week, which is huge because the issue has been the safeties. That's why we got burnt for a 97-yard touchdown on top of the other touchdowns that we gave up. I, I don't know. I just like we can't be this team that we claim to be and then lose games like this. This is a game you should be winning. This is a game you shouldn't even have to worry about. But credit to Brian Flores, credit to Sam Darnold, both of whom had good games. Fred Warner is right now. I have no reason he should 100% be the front runner for the Defensive Player of the Year. It's so stupid that they give it to edge rushers every single year and ignore Fred Warner and his dominance. But he has three forced fumbles and an interception to go along with 20 tackles to start the season. Add two tackles for a loss to that category as well. So, I mean, give the guy his flowers at some point. He started the season as good as any linebacker has ever started their season.
Yeah, he's a monster. First
He's
ballot
a
Hall of Famer. I
freak.
mean, just you have we're witnessing a legendary player on your defense right
in
now.
his prime, in his
Yeah.
exact prime. And if we don't win a Super Bowl in the next 2 years, we have wasted the prime of not only him, but we have wasted the prime of George Kittle and all of the other stars that we have on our team. Unfortunately,
Yeah, and after the game, I saw a clip of Brock Purdy meeting up with Brian Flores in the middle of the field and saying, "Your scheme is crazy."
it is
Uh,
crazy. He was able to just run coverage blitzes the entire game and absolutely decimate our offensive line because you bring five against our offensive line and we're in big trouble.
Yes. So this is definitely a game that the 49ers, as you said, probably should win, but maybe the Vikings are better than we thought they would be coming into the season. Sam
I think
Darnold's
they
played
are.
above expectations. Their defense is pretty freaking solid. Yeah, as you said, you think they are. Yeah, they have a shot to probably win this division, which is like, I mean, maybe that's early to say, but like they're competitive. We need to
Yeah,
see them obviously in the NFC North games. The Lions obviously are going to be their toughest competition, and if the Packers get Jordan Love back and healthy soon, but they are a fun team to watch. And Sam
absolutely.
Darnold, I don't think I ever pictured that Sam Darnold would be throwing a 97-yard touchdown, absolute dime to Justin Jefferson.
Pretty ball. I was not happy to watch it, but it was a pretty ball.
No, but Luigi, it's week two. I mean, obviously the injury in this game to Debo Samuel hurts, but people got to step up and we got to move forward. And as you said, you got to route the Rams here this week.
Yep.
Zachary, what's going on?
Hi guys.
Hey,
Uh,
man.
Nothing much. I'm excited to do the picks. I think I might have some separations this
All
week.
right, some
Sounds good. We got
separations.
one more thing to talk about. We covered the Jets, we covered the Patriots, but something that I think
Okay.
we should start doing this season is check-ins with our viewer favorites that we hadn't previously mentioned in the show. But we talked about the Jets a little bit in their win. We talked about the Pats a little bit in their overtime loss to Seattle. We didn't talk about the Steelers. Ryan, I promised we'd get back to your Steelers. I told you this. Unfortunately, good for the Steelers, bad for Zach's Broncos here. Obviously, the Broncos lost 13-6 to the Steelers. The 36 and a half point under that we said was going to hit absolutely smashed. The Steelers improved to 2-0. Their defense is really a black hole at this point. They had two picks and two sacks. Um, Zach, were you able to get to watch the Broncos game on Sunday?
I watched some of it. Um, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's 13-6. Bo Nix still not looking good. Like you said, the Steelers defense is really good. It was just not fun.
Yeah, unfortunate loss. But Ryan, there's your little blurb for your Steelers before we do our picks. Congrats on being 2-0. I hope it lasts a lot longer. Oh,
So
wait, real quick. Sorry. Mike Tomlin?
What about him?
Mike Tomlin winning football games.
Mike
Oh,
Tomlin
so
started
true.
2-0, but he's not the right coach of the Steelers, I swear to God.
That was
I swear
last
to
year,
God.
Luigi. We've turned a
I'm not letting
page.
that go because that not only was all of our viewers, that was the entire NFL fan base thinking that Mike Tomlin is a bad football coach. And I told you last year, and I'll tell you every year and every day you want to hear it, that I will stand on it that Mike Tomlin belongs being one of the head coaches in this football league because he is one of the best head coaches in the world of all time. Period.
I
Period.
agree. I do think it came from probably just a frustration point for most Steelers fans because,
Crimey River. You could
well,
be the Panthers. You could be the Panthers.
you
Crimey
could.
River.
Well,
Mhm.
that's what Ryan just said. Let's see if we win a playoff game. And with the
Oh,
way that their schedule comes in the last half of the season, these are the wins that they're probably going to get right now. But they're playing well enough
well enough is
to win these
correct.
games.
They're not
So.
playing that great, truthfully.
No, they're not. So it's like it goes back to the point where it's like, yeah, you can go at 9-8 every season, but if you're going to lose in the wild card game, did you have
But
a successful year?
don't forget that winning during the regular season and being able to go 9-8 is more of a coach stat than anything. We get to the playoffs, that's really on the players. Yes, there is a good portion of the playoffs about scheming, but when you're in the playoffs, that's the guys on the field.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. I think the conversation to move on from Mike Tomlin was kind of ridiculous because of the success throughout his entire career he's brought, but I understand the frustration because like they want something to change, but the head coach probably wasn't the greatest point to look at. So, let's see. One last thing before Ryan actually didn't ask about the Steelers in his last couple comments, but he did say, has the continued disappearance of Trevor Lawrence been spoken about this year yet? 51% completion percentage, 380 yards, and only one touchdown on the year. 0-2. Uh, Trevor Lawrence, we didn't really touch on the Jags at all. Lost to the Browns 18-13 this past week. Uh, Not good. And he came out and said that we just suck right now. And they can't their offense is just not fun to watch.
No, I mean, they have weapons too. They have a solid offensive line they've given a lot of money to. And they have a young defense, but they suck because they have a bad coach.
Oh,
Yeah.
so we're calling out the coach in Jacksonville.
Doug Peterson is garbage.
Super Bowl winning head coach.
Super Bowl winning my ass. Like for real, we want to relive that Eagles run? Did it have anything to do with coaching, or did it have everything to do with their defense absolutely dominating every single team because they had Fletcher Cox at the end of his prime, Brandon Graham at the end of his prime, along with many other great players playing excellent football? I like no. Doug Peterson, he hasn't done anything with the Jaguars. And he has this number one overall pick, the savior, the messiah, whatever you want to call Trevor Lawrence that he was supposed to be. And then they sign him to a huge contract and he's a dud.
And then they get another swing at it, and they picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Trayvon Walker.
Oh, yeah. I
Oh,
mean, Aiden Hutchinson sitting there with 4.5 sacks on Sunday, and the Jaguars are like, yeah, Trayvon Walker. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He isn't bad.
he's not bad.
He's not bad at all. And he's playing better and better every year. And they knew he was going to be one of these developmental players, but not picking Aiden Hutchinson was so stupid. We all know this.
Yes, it
But good
was.
point.
Trevor Lawrence hasn't thrown for over 300 yards since week 12 of last season.
Nice.
It's not going to
They are
change this week.
also they are also 1-7 since that point because they finished off last year pretty horrible. Yeah, I don't know. If you're a Jags fan, this is not the exciting atmosphere that you created in the beginning half of last season. I thought they would compete better. They should have probably won the Browns game. They had plenty of opportunities to score in the red zone, and they just didn't. And people are also saying, why? Obviously, Brian Thomas had 94 yards, but it was on two catches. And it's like you see what they're doing with Malik Neighbors, just absolutely feeding him the ball. Jags fans are like, why can't we do that with Brian Thomas? He's our first round wide receiver
Okay.
too.
Because you're being coached poorly.
Right? Yeah, that could be a good point. So, all right, let's get into the picks here. Zach, what did you want to say?
I have a feeling about it, and I'm wondering if you guys resonate with it because we're
Okay.
all talking about Bryce Young right now and how he's like maybe the biggest bust of all time. But I think personally for me, the only reason that I'm hesitant to call Trevor Lawrence one of the biggest busts is that I'm almost in like disbelief and like I'm almost like telling myself that it'll fix itself one day because it has to because it's Trevor Lawrence. But I almost wanted to compare it to like if Arch Manning came out and was terrible, but I feel like it's worse than that because Trevor Lawrence actually has a college football, like he's won national titles. He was gross in high school, gross in college. And like I don't know if you guys can, but it's unexplainable to me. I don't care who the coach is. Like this guy was supposed to be a phenom and
Yeah.
he's average at best. And I feel like year after year, I'm just like in disbelief. I'm just like waiting for him to be Trevor Lawrence, but maybe he just never will be. I don't know.
Another bad organization too, though, that has consistently ruined some of their top picks. So you're seeing it. Like we talked about earlier with Darnold and Baker, like being able to go to a good franchise where they care about their players and they're really going to put the right tools around you is paramount at this point because everyone that comes out as a top draft pick is talented. Obviously, that's why they're a top draft pick. But it's the support around them and the facilities around them and the people around them that is really paramount to their success, especially early in their careers. But I 100% resonate with you, Zach. I don't know if I know the reason. Is it the supporting cast? Is it the Jaguars? Is it the coaching? I don't 100% know. I'm not there. I can't tell you. But it's so weird to me as well that you have Trevor Lawrence, this guy who's supposed to be the number one pick if he could come out as a freshman or as a sophomore, and then came out as a junior and gets picked number one overall unanimously. So much so that he knew he was going to Jacksonville months in advance. It was already setting up foundations down in Jacksonville. Like you're absolutely right. It's weird that he's this bad, especially it's not like a Bryce Young situation where he has nothing around him. He has stuff around him. I don't know.
I remember a time where there was like a controversy that maybe organizations were going to be tanking for this guy.
Yeah.
People were getting upset about that. Like he was so hyped and he deserved it, but I don't know. It's just disappointing. It's so disappointing.
Yeah, I think that's the point. Ryan said, yes, Zach, that's what I'm saying. Ryan's been talking to me about this for the last like 2, 3 seasons because he's like, yes, the first 2 seasons of the Trevor Lawrence experience, he had nobody really to work with. But the last 2 seasons he has, and he's supposed to have this better coach in Doug Peterson and better offensive scheme, which we saw a little bit of last year of what he could be with that. But as you said, Zach, he's been average, but he's been paid. Like he is already a $55 million quarterback that has kind of not proven anything.
Well, the Jags are probably in disbelief too. Like if there was ever a slam dunk 100% guaranteed success pick, at the time it would have been him. So they're probably like, I don't understand. I don't like they didn't take any risk. There was zero risk in the pick. But here we are. Like
Yeah.
I don't, they're probably in disbelief too.
Yeah, no, I think so. How could you not be? He was supposed to be, as you said, one of the greatest p prospects of all time, and it just has not panned out.
Doesn't make
So
any sense.
I think Ryan brings up a pretty solid point in the fact that like nobody's talking about it, and we're just kind of going with it. He's already been paid. People, the rhetoric around it was that he deserves it. And I think the talent is there, it seems like, but it just has not come to fruition. And this is what? Is this year 5 of Trevor Lawrence?
Yes.
Like this is he's a veteran now.
He's a legit veteran.
Yeah. So we will see. But thanks for the point, Ryan. Appreciate you bringing up that topic. I think that's a good one to keep an eye on. All right, let's get into the picks. Week 3 of the 2024 NFL season. We did absolutely horrendous last week. Eric is the top dog at 18 and 14. Me and Luigi are at 17 and 15, and Zach at 16 and 16.
Nice.
hoping for a better week this week. 8:15 Thursday Night Football tomorrow night. Pats 1-1 at the Jets, 1-1, 6-point favorites to the New York Jets. Eric sent a tweet in the chat saying that the Jets are 0-7 against the Patriots on prime time. I think they changed that. It's on the road at the Jets. The Jets home opener. Rodgers has got to change something. I know they barely beat the Titans last week, and the Pats have been playing pretty decent football, I guess. But the Jets have to eventually, at some point, take those offensive weapons and bring them above the other team, especially a worse team supposedly in the Pats. So give me the Jets.
I'm gonna take I'm gonna take the Jets too. I promised Liz that if the Pats won last week, I would never not take them, but that didn't happen. So I'm gonna stick with my usual plan here. I'm gonna take the Jets on prime time.
I'm gonna ride with Eric, and I'm gonna take the Patriots. I'm not impressed by the Jets.
All right. Split down the middle. Eric's taking the Patriots as well, as he already let us know, of course. 1 o'clock on Sunday, Bears 1-1 at the Colts, 0-2. 1.5-point favorites to the Colts. Colts we didn't get to discuss with the Packers, Luigi, last week. Did not look good. Anthony Richardson had 3 interceptions. Yes, one of them was on a game trying to win the game with a Hail Mary, but he had 2 pretty bad ones early on. They have not been good, and their run defense is absolutely horrific. The Packers ran all over them. In week 1, Houston ran all over them. And I say this like I'm not going to take the Colts. I kind of want to, but I'll hear you guys out first. Zach, go ahead.
I think since it's so early in the year, I still am hanging on to hope with this team. I like their offense. I like parts of their defense. You're right about the run defense that it has to get resolved immediately. But I feel like the offense has a ceiling that it hasn't hit, and maybe it's going to take a sec. But against a team like the Bears, that's really gettable. They do have a good defense, but I'm not going to give up hope in the Colts just yet. I'm going to take them again.
I'm gonna go with the Colts as well. Zach said it really well. I just think they need to bounce back, and the Bears are just not impressive.
Yeah, I guess I'll take the Colts as well. Home game for the Colts. Yes, bounce back. Hopefully the defense can take advantage of playing a rookie quarterback in Caleb Williams, who has not looked amazing just yet, still trying to figure it out here in the NFL. So I'll take the Colts as well. 1 o'clock Broncos 0-2 at the Bucks, 2-0, 6.5-point favorites to the Bucks. Give me Tampa Bay.
Yeah, this is going to be my first anti-Broncos pick. There's probably going to be a lot of those moving forward now. I'm going to take Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Bucks look really good. Baker looks really good. Chris Godwin looks really good. This is a really good spot for Chris Godwin to have another monster game because Mike Evans and your boy PS2 are going to be having a good battle on the outside.
Yeah, they're going to get to know each other pretty well, I think.
Yeah, Chris Godwin has been tremendous so far this season. I think he's reeled in all of his targets so far for a ton of yards and a couple touchdowns. 1 o'clock Chargers 2-0 at the Steelers 2-0, 1.5-point favorites to the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is an interesting one. Luigi, as we said, we didn't really know what the Chargers are. We still don't really know what the Steelers are either. I'm going to give the Steelers the advantage just because they're at home, and this is another win on their schedule that propels Mike Tomlin to a winning season, but it is going to get harder and harder. But I like what the Chargers are doing. I love Jim Harbaugh, football guy. It wants other people to be football people, probably doesn't get along with those who aren't football people. So I do like him a lot, but I think on the road, they're playing a 1 o'clock game. 10 a.m. for the Steelers, or 10 a.m. for them, 1 o'clock for the Steelers. Give me the Steelers.
I'm going to take the Steelers just because I think the best unit on the field in this game is the Steelers defense. And I don't think the Chargers offense is going to be good enough to really overcome that. They'll do better than the Broncos. It'll be better than 16. What was it, 16-3? Is that what it was?
Which game?
Oh, 6 no, 13 to 6.
13-6. They'll do better than 13-6, I think. But I think it's just going to be another Steelers defense dominates. They run the ball, they barely score points, but it's just enough to get by.
I'm going to go with the Steelers as well because I think that they're going to limit the ability for the Chargers to run the football, and the Chargers' passing offense is not that impressive if they don't have a good running offense going. So I'm going to go with Pittsburgh to start the year 3-0.
All right. Pittsburgh across the board. The New York Football Giants 0-2 at the Browns 1-1. Cleveland is 6.5-point favorites. I'm taking Cleveland. Zach, I'm really excited to hear what you're about to say.
I'm the never Cle. You'll
Oh,
never.
this is never
I'm just
Cleveland
I'm
season.
just
I
on the
forgot.
never Cleveland wagon. The Giants are terrible. I'm going to lose this pick, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Wow.
You might not lose this pick. I am picking Cleveland, but you might not lose this pick. Cleveland is an atrocious football team. They barely squeaked out a win against the Jaguars. But
So
I
with the
still
Giants.
have some reason to beat the Giants.
Griffin Massing will be in attendance at this game with JT Siano.
Oh, yeah.
So
What a terrible game.
Enjoy. Yeah.
what a fun game
Enjoy,
in Cleveland.
boys.
It was planned.
Yeah. 1 o'clock, Eagles 1-1 at the Saints, 2-0, 2.5-point favorites to the Saints. I like what the Saints are doing. Their offense has been clicking. I think I'll ride with them until I guess it stops. And I don't think the Eagles defense has been tremendous so far this season. So I'm going to take the Saints.
I'm going to go ahead. This is what I figured this was going to be my separation. I'm going to take the Eagles. The Saints are no joke. Everybody can see that Alvin Kamara has strongly benefited from not going to jail. That has been really good for his career, it seems. But the Eagles need it real bad. And that was a close game. The Falcons, everybody in the city is talking about the refs. Oh boy, are they. I know, I get it. Believe me. But I'm going to give it to the Eagles. I think they're going to be the ones to stop the Saints.
I'm going to give it to New Orleans. I really think that with how their offense has been running and how poor the Eagles' defense has been, they might just win in a shootout, honestly.
All right, Zach takes separation with the Eagles. 1 o'clock, Packers 1-1 at the Titans 0-2. Titans are 2-point favorites. The Packers are a good football organization, and they just figured out a way to win on Sunday. I don't know what Will Levis is doing in some of these games. I feel like eventually he's going to have a bounce back, but like this Green Bay defense has been playing pretty well so far. So I'm going to take Green Bay. I think I'm comfortable at least with this. I guess underdog, close one though.
I'm just going to keep my logic from last week. The Titans are in a bucket of do not take until otherwise notified. I'm going to take the Packers.
I might get burnt here, but I'm going to take the Titans for a little bit of separation because I just think that the Packers can only run the football and the Titans can defend the run a lot better than the Colts can. So that's my reason because they really won't be able to throw the football at all.
True. I could have gone either way. I don't know. I just didn't want to take all these favorites. Moving forward, Texans 2-0 at 1 o'clock against the Vikings 2-0. Houston is 2-point favorites. This should be an exciting game. I'm willing to take a separation and go with the underdog at home. And for Earl Smola, I'll take Minnesota.
Oh,
You're gonna do your dad dirty like that?
Yes. It doesn't feel right. Something about this doesn't feel sustainable.
The
I
Sam
understand.
Darnold legacy season.
Yes, unless but I said this about the Seahawks too, and I could be all right. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the Texans. If I get burned again, this would be that Excel statistic sheet you have,
I'm
Matt, would
keeping
have
it
me
running.
posted picking against the Vikings so far if I get burnt again. So how about this? I'm going to take the Texans, but if I get burnt again, I will take the Vikings for the rest of the year.
Oh,
Because
wow.
this is a serious team. They already beat the 49ers. This is a no joke game.
Yeah, I'm tailing Zach with Houston here. I'm looking at my picks and I'm not happy that I have only one underdog and it's the Patriots, but
So far.
yeah, you can look at the rest of them. It doesn't look great. Houston's a top 5 football team in the NFL. The Vikings are not. That's my justification.
Fair. 4:05 on Sunday. Dolphins 1-1 at the Seahawks 2-0. Seahawks are 4.5-point favorites. Skylar Thompson likely to get the start for the Dolphins, facing off in the 12th man. I'm going to take Seattle.
I'm gonna take Seattle too, just because I don't trust Skylar Thompson.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Seattle as well because I don't think Skylar Thompson should be on the NFL football field.
All right.
All right, Seahawks across the board 4:05. Panthers 0-2 at the Raiders 1-1, 5-point favorites to the Las Vegas Raiders. I will not be taking the Panthers this year likely at all. I don't think I took them a single time last year, so I'm going to take the Raiders.
In here, I'm going to take the Raiders, but Luigi, I want to ask you because my original plan in the pool was to pick everybody that plays against the Panthers forever until it doesn't work anymore. And they changed their quarterback, which throws a wrench into the situation.
I
What
know.
what do you think?
I know. I'm taking the Raiders in our PFR picks.
Me too.
I think I'm going to stay away from the Panthers this week. At
Luigi, you
all
told me that
costs.
you were going to do it regardless.
Well, until Bryce Young got benched, and now there's a
And
change.
now the Red Rifle is
Yeah,
in,
well, I
in
don't have
control.
much faith in the Red Rifle as I do in having faith in NFL changes making things weird. So
Yeah, right.
I don't want to trust myself on a change. So I'm gonna go with the Raiders here. I don't think I'm gonna go with the Raiders in the pool because I want to win the money, and there's only 3 of us left after 2 weeks.
It's ridiculous. It was easy for us. All we had to do was not pick the Panthers, and
Yeah, I mean it's so easy.
pretty good deal.
4:25 on Sunday. 49ers 1-1 at the Rams 0-2. 7-point favorites to the 49ers. This is going to be a home game for the 49ers in SoFi. Rams are so depleted. Luigi, as you said, this is a bounce back game. Got to get a win here. Big time. 49ers.
I think I'm going to take the 49ers, but I hate that nobody has the Rams.
I
They're
don't.
bad,
They're
dude.
absolutely
They're bad.
murdered right now.
They don't have anybody playing for them
They're not
right
even
now.
on a leg. They're on a pinky toe at this
Zach, they
point.
just lost 41-10 to the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm going to take the 49ers because that's a reasonable decision.
Yeah, I'm taking the Niners. I think we win by a lot more than 7. I think Kyle Shanahan's really going to just want to murder them.
I
Agreed.
forgot they took out Matt Stafford. I forgot about that.
49ers across the board. 4:25 on Sunday. Lions 1-1 at the Cardinals 1-1. 3-point favorites to Detroit. I liked what the Cardinals did last week. I think Detroit's a better team. Give me the Lions.
Luigi, you do it.
Yeah, I'm going with Detroit. And my only reason for going with Detroit is because they're at home. Plus, Aiden Hutchinson, after a 4.5 sack game, is going up against another offensive line that struggles in the pass rush.
Because the Cardinals are at home?
This says the Cardinals are home.
The Cardinals are at home.
They are at home. I read that wrong. Still going with Detroit.
Yeah, I think they're a better team. And at a certain point, Luigi, some of these favorites have to hit. Some of them have to hit.
I mean, I'm picking all favorites, so I really hope they all hit. But
I'll take a separation. I'm going to take Arizona. They're good enough to be in this
Not a
game.
bad pick. Yeah.
That's a smart separation pick.
4:25 Ravens 0-2 at the Cowboys 1-1. Baltimore is 1-point favorites. Both of these teams had bad losses last week. Man, do the Ravens fall to 0-3?
That's why I'm picking the Ravens, because I don't think they can fall to 0-3, and if they do, I'm going to be absolutely baffled that they've allowed this. But I think this is a good spot for them to bounce back. I just don't think the Cowboys will have enough answers and enough offensive firepower to beat the Ravens.
Oh, man.
This is tough, dude. Like, I don't want to take Dallas because I don't think the Ravens are going to be 0-3, but I also I don't know. They equally have flaws, both of them.
I'm going to take the $1 billion man. I'm going to say that the Cowboys win at home. It doesn't sound right to have the Ravens be 0-3, but I think it's possible. Oh my goodness.
It's gonna be a good football game regardless.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Dallas too, I think. Oh, makes me feel not good about it, but
Not at all.
we'll see. Sunday Night Football, 8:20 Chiefs 2-0 at the Falcons 1-1. 3.5 point favorites to the Chiefs. I'm gonna take the Chiefs until they stop winning, honestly. So
Yeah. They're the opposite bucket as the Titans.
Yeah, I'm going Kansas City as well. They've won games against good teams early in the season already, so why not?
Monday Night Football, 2 games on Monday night. At 7:30, we have the Jaguars 0-2 at the Bills 2-0. 5.5 point favorites to Buffalo. The Jags have, funny enough, been a difficult team for Buffalo to be playing, although most of the games have been either in London or in Jacksonville. So I'm taking the Bills. This is a pro Bills podcast. Give me the Bills at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Bills too. I hope, honestly, I hope I'm wrong because the Bills can take it. They'll get more wins down the line. I hope the Jaguars can pull it together and show us something good, but I can't bet on that.
I don't. I love misery. Go Buffalo.
All right, Buffalo across the board. Final game of the week, 8:15 on Monday night. Also, Commanders 1-1 at the Bengals 0-2, 7.5 point favorites to Cincinnati. Commanders played a better game, but it was obviously against the Giants. Bengals 0-2. I don't see the Bengals going to 0-3, especially at home on primetime. Give me Cincinnati.
Yeah, this seems more reasonable for a good team to not be 0-3. And both teams played better games in week 2 than week 1, but the Bengals did against the Chiefs, which is a much bigger deal. I'm gonna take the Bengals.
I really think that even though it was a loss to the Chiefs, I think this is a good stepping stone for the rest of the season for the Bengals, and I see them coming out with a strong win against the Commanders. I don't know about 7.5. That's a lot of points, but
It is a lot.
I could easily see that being a two-score game with the Bengals taking it home.
Absolutely. Cincinnati across the board. That is the week 3 picks already. Unfortunately, but it has been Fire Football Radio here on YouTube Live on our YouTube channel. We appreciate those who have listened in till this point or who listened in at all. We always appreciate you and hope that your teams are winning rather than losing, and you hope that we appreciate you for listening to us every week to talk about it. But yeah, we're moving into week 3. Luigi or Zach, any final thoughts?
The Niners need to win a big football game, and yeah, that's my only thought because I don't care about the rest of the league if the 49ers lose.
I'm gonna give Bo Nix another week.
Do you think the Broncos have any chance to win on Sunday?
No, not this Sunday.
Right.
No, I don't think. I think this is
Yeah, just confirming.
He goes,
no, no,
right.
no.
I want you to be miserable with me. I want you to be an 0-3 team
Well,
like I will
thanks.
be.
Thanks,
But
chum.
you're taking me to win a game this week, so that's pretty exciting for us.
Well, just on principles, not because you're a good football team.
Never Cleveland. All right, we appreciate everyone for listening. Ryan, Griffin, Eli, Scott from D11. We appreciate all you being so active in the chat. Griffin says Jags are the Bills' kryptonite. Correct, as I said. And Ryan says go Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin looking to be 3-0 on the season.
Go
All right,
Mike
we'll see you
Tomlin.
next week. Peace until then.
Peace. Peace, love, and rock and roll,
I don't know why I
baby.
did horns up.
Horns down.